Hello, welcome to my video. The Kirby Air Riders Direct is out, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. We went from having basically no information about this game, like at all, to a lot of information all at once. So I'm just gonna go through the Direct and like talk about things as they come up. The first thing that immediately happens, I'll skip forward a bit here. It's called Kirby Air Riders because you can choose your rider. Incredible. Also, like, this is not a huge thing. It doesn't really matter. I didn't pick up on this myself when I like watched the Direct, but this is technically kind of the reveal that like City Trial is in the game because they get off their machine here, and that's like not something you would do. I'm kind of surprised like more people didn't see the characters get off their machine like that and immediately into it. That like, oh, City Trial is in the game. I guess I don't know. I mean, I didn't think of it either, so I guess it's like the last thing on anyone's mind, so it's just kind of interesting. But yeah, you can now choose your rider, which is, I didn't think they were going to do this. I was totally bracing myself for like, oh, you just play as Kirby's, you just play as 4 Kirby's. I mean, they did show, it is kind of interesting that they showed 4 Kirby's in the like teaser trailer, because that would kind of imply that the game is 4. The teaser trailer really made sure to reveal no information, because like, okay, they only showed 4 Kirby's, which they make you think the game is 4-player, but it's 6-player. So like showing 4 Kirby specifically isn't even accurate to like what a regular race is like. So, yeah, they really just did not show like anything before this Direct. But yeah, actually I'm glad that there are multiple characters. For reasons I'll get into later. It's very cool. Also, it's very funny that like they show 5 characters at the start, and like the first 4 are like the ones you'd expect, and they also show Chef Kawasaki, and then they don't reveal another character for like 5 minutes. So it's just like, why did you add Chef Kawasaki? What does he say next? Oh yeah, so this is not really necessarily anything to do with the game itself, but this is just weird. This is just weird to me. Like, why? So Shinya Takahashi and like what is it? The president of HAL Laboratory, the former president of HAL Laboratory, like asked him to make this game. So like, are they just like huge Air Ride fans and they just like wanted him to make this or something? Because like, what's the deal here? Because either they're like doing this as like a financial decision, like are they like asking him like, oh, like a executive level, like we think Kirby Air Ride 2 would be a great exclusive to have on the Switch too? Or I mean, that doesn't really even make sense because nobody liked Kirby Air Ride the first time, so why would they ask them to make this on the Switch? Like, why would they want this on the Switch too specifically? But then it's like also like, okay, the other interpretation is like, did they just like Kirby Air Ride a lot so that they asked like one of the like extremely famous like game director to just make their game for them again. It's a great, like, he really just says that whole thing like matter-of-factly, and it's crazy. It's crazy that he said that. And here, this is kind of funny. He's like, "Yep, it's basically like Mario Kart." Which, I mean, that's kind of reductive. It's not really exactly like Mario Kart, but I guess when you're the director of a game and you want your game to stand out to the masses, you kind of have to like see it how like an average consumer is going to see it. And yeah, it is just a character of, or it is just a game of, you know, characters driving around and doing stuff. And here he says he's going to reveal the gameplay. This is not even the first look at gameplay, but I guess this is just normal, little reel to show you what the game looks like. The game looks incredible, by the way. Like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy how much it looks like the original Air Ride, but in just like way higher detail. Like, I was totally expecting it to be like modernized in some way, and in just so many ways it's just not. It feels like such a straightforward sequel to the original game, which is crazy because like, yeah, the people that like liked Air Ride like it. Like, the Air Ride has its fans, but it was critically panned at the time. And like, I just like from like seeing a lot of people's like talking to people online and seeing people's like streamers talk about it, it seems like not a lot of like even like modern Nintendo heads like really like know that much about Kirby Air Ride. So it's like kind of it really just like, it's less like Sakurai is making this game because people already liked it, but rather he like has such confidence in the original idea that he's like, even though like it didn't do well, he's willing to basically like, he thinks it deserves more than it got. Just I don't. There's so much confidence in this idea, in this game's whole like premise. Here this is just like a tutorial, but I do appreciate that he's like giving more like tutorial for the game, because like if obviously if you play Kirby Air Ride, you think you know how it works, right? But I think one of the huge sticking points of the original Kirby Air Ride is that, like, on release, like, nobody knew how to hit. Like, it was just a confusing game. Like, even if you knew the controls, like, what you actually had to do to win was, like, not entirely clear. And many people just play the city trial mode and don't really even know, like, the full mechanics of, like, some of the lesser, like, more obscure mechanics of the Air Ride mode, but, like, so, like, I don't know, this is like I think this is like going to make a huge difference for this game. Is that it actually he's actually going to explain how it works. But yeah, this is just literally a tutorial. I don't really have much else to say about this. But yeah, so this time we've added a second button. Unfortunately, I totally did not catch that like the first time I watched this, but it is really funny that he says that. But I don't know how to feel. At first when I saw this, I was like, oh no, he's adding like supers. Like, this is just gonna like add more like weird like randomness and like chaotic stuff. But I think it looks fine. I think the fact that the supers like do different things. And I assume the special gauge probably like charges at a consistent rate or something. I don't know, there's probably, I mean, I'm not like gonna take like this game like super seriously. Obviously I'm not like, it's not like super sweaty, like competitive. I imagine this for like in casual play, this probably adds more strategy than it does like randomness. Or at least I hope it does. It just casual Cappy reveal. Also, yeah, this section has a Kirby and the Amazing. It's the final boss theme, like the second phase, like the Dark Mind Phase 2 theme from Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Which, I mean, it's not like a super deep cut, they've referenced that before, but like, it's a very specific song to play there. Also, yeah, here Kirby has 4 specials. He has like 7 colors, but like the remaining 3 colors just reuse the 4 abilities. It's kind of interesting because 2 of them are like ultra abilities from Return to Dreamland, and then 2 of them aren't. And it kind of makes sense because like Crash is like, generally kind of considered like a special powerful ability, but then like Burn isn't, so like what the hell? Oh yeah, here he talks about lessons. Early reveal of... Okay, well, I gotta pause on this screen. So first of all, if you're paying attention, this I did notice when I watched the direct the first time. If you're paying attention, like, the early city trial reveal literally just says it right there. The other thing about this is that there's a huge blank spot. Like, clearly this is an empty space, right? I should, like, not have that there. Clearly this... There's going to be something here, and obviously, like, I should play devil's advocate and say, like, oh, well, just because there's an empty space, that doesn't, sometimes, like, UI designers use empty space to, like, make things look better. It doesn't mean, like, anything that could fit us, like, but, like, clearly, like, obviously there is something here, right? Like, that's not... If they wanted to make the basics button, like, bigger and, like, make these take up, like, an even amount of space, there's different ways they could split this up into thirds. I don't know what this is going to be hiding, but like clearly there's something here. I guess I can talk about this now. There's no top ride. They have not mentioned top ride like at all, which is suspicious. And it's like, okay, if you had to cut one of the 3 modes to like make this game like easier to develop and like probably like, spend more time making the other modes good, you would cut top ride, right? Like everyone's been saying, like, okay, maybe you don't necessarily need it in the game. There is this where the Kirby Air Ride is like Air Riders official Twitter account has this as its icon, and if this is from the game, this is technically like the first, because they put this account went up like before the direct went live, so if this is a screenshot from the game, this is technically the first we'd ever seen of Kirby Air Riders. But I don't know what this actually is. Like, I don't know if this is like I saw someone suggest maybe this is like a collectible figurine or something, and I'm kind of believing that theory, because I don't know if they would make Air Ride like, or Top Ride like so chibi-fied here, because like on a literal level, I can see that I'm like looking at like a chibi Kirby on a warp star, and it's like, all right, yeah, I got that much. Like I understand what I'm literally looking at, but like I don't understand what I'm like actually looking at. Like, is this a top right screenshot or not? If this is top right, then I guess they got rid of the like um the what is it, the steer star and the free star, where instead of being on the warp star, Kirby is on like either the red or blue star, which change your control scheme. But we don't know if this is top right or not. But I don't think I care that much of top. I mean, I think I like top ride more than the average Kirby Air Ride player. Like I'll go up for bat and say top ride is cool, but most people kind of don't care. So, and like unlike Air Ride, which does like have has the same controls and like some reused content in City Trial, Top Ride has nothing to do with City Trial. So most people just don't care. But yeah, also having a dedicated, like I was saying earlier, having a dedicated tutorial mode is probably going to go a long way to make people like actually like the game. I do think the sticking points with Kirby Air Ride are a little bit more than just like not knowing how to play it, because like even before this direct, but especially after, you see a lot of people saying like, oh, well, I don't really understand like what the point of like City Trial is. You're really going to spend like 5 to 7 minutes in this city, like just preparing for like a 30-second minigame. Like, what's the fun in that? So a lot of people just like don't get the basic premise, even like after playing the game, so which is just kind of tragic. But I do think like actually explaining how to play it is a huge deal. I also think like having like more like objectives and extrinsic motivation probably also go a long way towards like making people, because like the original game really like it had like the checklist, which I know people really like, but it's kind of weird that it didn't have like any kind of like Grand Prix mode or campaign. But I as we'll see later, I do think there is going to be something like that. It's really funny that they brought the bulk star back. I guess this is another idea that we have particular confidence in here. And then yeah, so this is really interesting. So he says we're adding some new types here. So first of all, okay, the chariot. Here's I didn't mention. I don't really have anything to say about the paper star. He's adding a chariot, which is a new type, which is like cool. This is a cool idea. I don't know what's really different about this. Like, runs on 2 wheels and it's pretty stable. Also looks cool. Okay, so I assume that this is like kind of similar to the wheelies. Maybe it like handles better than the wheelies or something, but it's also like constantly grounded the same way the wheelies are. But I don't really get why this like what's like so different about this. Like, why did he add this type? I guess I feel like unless he explains more, I'm not really going to get it until I like play with it myself. Maybe it's I don't know. This is also particularly interesting to me because this is like it does make sense that this is like a different type, because like okay, it doesn't turn it's like the opposite of the swerve star, where you can turn normally, but then when you hold down boost you just move in the same direction, and then you can turn and then you like immediately turn in whatever angle you were facing. And that's really interesting. But the weird thing about this is that this is the only... they said immediately before this, he said, okay, we're going to introduce new types of vehicles. And he shows the chariot. And then he shows the tank star. But this is the only, like, tank, like, machine he shows in this entire direct. And it's kind of unclear if this is a new type of vehicle or if this is just one of the stars. Because it would go by the naming scheme. Like, all the other machines are called, like, Warp Star, Swerve Star, Slick Star. The ones that aren't like the normal star type are called like Wheelie Bike, Rex Wheelie, Chariot, Battle Chariot. Like they don't have star in the name. This does, and I guess it's just like I don't. It would be kind of weird if he showed it here if there wasn't like if this wasn't like a dedicated type of star. But if that's the case, why did he only show one tank? If there's multiple tanks, why did he only show one? Now, and he does say, like, oh, there's going to be multiple types. Let me go back to that. But, like, of course, I should say, like, this is not Sakurai saying this. This is a translation of Sakurai's words spoken in Japanese. So this could be wrong. Like, he could have just said, like, oh, well, we're going to be introducing some stars that are of a new type or something, not necessarily implying multiple types, just multiple stars that are of a new type, and that there are multiple chariots. Uh, you know, calling back, I'll call back here to like one of the Smash Bros. Directs where, like, I think it was the first like Smash Ultimate Direct where he said that like, oh, we've based Zelda's design off of like the new Zelda design in Smash Ultimate is based off of A Link to the Past, but the translator said oh, this new Zelda design is based off of A Link Between Worlds, and yeah, A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds are like very similar games, but like they are like different. Like Zelda's Link to the Past design and Link to Between Worlds design are like different Zeldas, so like the translator just said something straight up incorrect. So this could just be false. But I mean, I do think there are going to be more machines shown in the future. It's just there's not any more tanks right now. Also worth noting that I think I didn't like cross-check the exact list, but the only this wheelie scooter, which is like the little green one, the Formula Star and the Jet Star are like the only like normal machines like not shown in this direct. I do think they are going to show more machines in the future, but like I could go either way on any of those machines, or they could just have randomly decided that they don't like the Formula Star anymore. But they still have like drag races in the city trial, so I mean, I don't know. I feel like those stars are probably still in and they just didn't happen to show them in this direct. Here's Sakurai beating the allegations, as they say. I didn't really care too much if, like, you know, Magolor specifically got in. I think it's good that he did, but I didn't care. I also, like, did not really buy into the idea that Sakurai, like, hated modern Kirby, because it's not like he's worked on a Kirby game in a very long time. People are really only basing that off of, like, okay, how much modern stuff does he reference in, like, you know, usually when he makes one of these games, he just kind of references the Kirby games he works on. Like, I mean, the original Kirby Air Ride had a lot of, like, Kirby's Superstar stuff in it. So there is that. There is definitely, like, a bias towards the games he worked on, but also, like, in Smash Brothers, it kind of made sense. Like, every franchise is kind of getting a small slice of the pie in Smash Bros. So it kind of made sense that, like, okay, he's just kind of referencing general Kirby stuff, because, like, okay, Kirby only has 3 characters. It's not like they really ever needed to bring up, like, Magolor or Suzy in Smash. So I never really got the sense that Sakurai, like, actively disliked modern Kirby. It's just he never really got a chance to reference it, because all the games he'd been working on since Kirby Air Ride were, like, Smash Bros. And Kid Icarus and stuff like that. But I don't mind that he's beating the allegations. Oh yeah, and the other thing about it's not just that Sakurai is now, like, referencing, like, modern Kirby more, but he's also, like, he also doesn't. There's a lot of Kirby games that don't really reference, like, the, like, Dark Matter trilogy, you know, like the Shinichi Shimomura games. Because Gooey's in this, and I feel like Rick will probably be playable, but in general, like, there's more references to... It's not just about Sakurai, like, referencing modern Kirby, like, also referencing the classic Kirby games that he didn't make is a pretty big deal as well. So I wasn't really, like, too concerned about, like, only Kirby being able to use copy abilities. I mean, what he does makes sense. Like, this whole, like, the system that he comes up with, like, makes sense. But you know, my assumption was, like, okay, well, the other characters have, like, abilities, like, latent to them. Like, okay, Meta Knight always has a sword. Suzy always has her, like, propeller or whatever. Like, it would make sense that, like, with other characters, you're basically, like, picking a specific ability to have at all times, instead of picking Kirby, who can use any ability. And that's why you would pick Kirby over the other characters, which that made it that seemed like a reasonable way to, like, balance them. But then I guess all that, you know, that kind of the abilities, the enemies that give you abilities are kind of a huge part of the level design. So I guess that would pretty drastically skew things towards Kirby specifically. When he started saying, like, oh, well, what are the other characters gonna do? I kind of assumed that I again assumed, like, okay, well, maybe they're just gonna have something else that gives them an advantage over Kirby. But just giving everyone copy ability, it kind of is like nonsense in the lore, like it doesn't entirely make sense, but that doesn't really matter. This is clearly the most fun and elegant solution. I don't know, when I saw this, I was just like, oh, okay, you can just do that. You can just put hats on them, and that it works. And this is weirdly specific. He specifically brings up how plasma works. Very just kind of odd of him to mention that, because surely other abilities also work differently. But it's kind of like a balancing change. It's both like an accessibility thing, because you don't have to like destroy your controller to charge plasma, but also it's a balance thing, because now if you're better at mashing your stick, you can't charge it faster. It charges at the same rate for everyone, so yeah, it's just kind of an interesting decision. New enemy for fire, specifically. Also, I didn't really mention it in that, like, ability sizzle reel, but, like, there's fire, in addition to being able to, like, shoot flames, you can also, like, do, like, the burning dash. Like, you get, like, a boost of speed, like, an additional boost of speed when you do a boost, it seems. Like, you get, like, the dash attack from boosting. Oh yeah, here, this is kind of weird, because not only does he, like basically kind of reveal that you can walk around here, but, like, specifically by showing a new character, which is really disorienting. Like, it kind of makes it hard to parse, like, what you're even looking at when you see, like, a completely different camera angle, like, focusing on this guy. It's like, if they showed Kirby doing this, it would make complete sense, but, like, what a weird, just an interesting way to reveal this. But so a second ago, they show him... Yeah, whatever, they're just revealing Starman. Oh yeah, well, I guess I could get into this. He says, not all the riders are major characters. Put a pin in that. I'll come back to that line later. I hope people more realize how cute Starman is. Toll! That's cute. So this is interesting, because... So, when they first show off Starman walking around... He's in like the little forest area in City Trial, and they just haven't revealed like City Trial yet, so that it's like whatever. But like here, he is clearly walking around in Floria Fields, so it's like, what? Can you get off your machine like in the air ride courses to some extent? Like, where is this? Like, what context is happening? It does look like he does a really high jump, so maybe this is like a NPC enemy version of Starman, but it's also possible that this is just what because you know. When you get off your machine as Kirby in City Trial in the original game, you could float a little bit. You get like, 5 additional like air jumps or whatever. So perhaps other characters, similar to how like Star Allies and stuff like that will do it. Other characters have different ways of gaining like flying around and getting like huge jumps, and perhaps Starman, being the high jump guy, can just jump really high. And this is footage of him doing that like on foot. That does not explain why. Like, that does not explain why he's in Floria Fields here, because, like, look at this. This would not make sense as, like, an enemy on the field. Like, why is he walking slow? Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say. Mysterious footage. Mysterious footage. There's 6 I appreciate, yeah, here's, like, people, so I've seen some people say this seems like it's subtle shade at Mario Kart World. I'm sure he didn't mean it like that. I don't think he would, like, do that, but... Yeah, it's nice that there's not too many racers. Like, it's more than the original game, but, like, it's 6 racers, which is, like, more than, like, even, like, the old Mario Karts, which would have, like, 8 players. This still is, like, keeping it relatively small, which I think is a good thing. Sakurai really kind of respecting, like, keeping the scope kind of small in a game like this. Okay, if you want to play a huge open world racer, you can go play Mario Kart World, but this is like smaller and more focused. Still, I do think it's kind of crazy that they're really like 2 of Nintendo's like huge like tentpole games are just like racing games, like mascot racing games. Kind of a weird decision, but I guess I'm glad they're doing it, because I like both. I like Kirby Air Ride, so it's cool. This course looks really, like, visually just looks really incredible, by the way. Only just like 1 lap of it, but I don't think I have anything to say. But I guess if you want to like analyze the layout of this course, you can. But I don't really have too much to say about this specifically at this point in time. I just skip forward a bit. I do have stuff to say about. Oh yeah, and also put a pin in this. Like this is literally just like Smash Brothers like UI design, like Smash Brothers victory screen. Also, yeah, I also don't care too much about this because this feels like it's going to like make sense later. But there's like some kind of currency system, it seems. Perhaps you'll have to like purchase new machines and riders or something instead of directly unlocking them from a checklist or something. I don't really care. Like this is not like super mysterious to me. It's just okay. There's going to be currency that you can use to unlock stuff. It doesn't really matter what it is. So then I think here he goes. What does he talk about next? Yeah, he shows like the collection of courses. This is kind of so I have not really seen people talk about this, but they've only shown like 6 courses, I think. So here's Florida Fields. This is 1. Then this level is kind of interesting because it seems like it's a like Great Cave Offensive kind of reference. Sakurai just loves to put Great Cave Offensive and stuff. Also, not a huge deal, but this is the Kirby and the Amazing Mirror Golem enemy. Not like there's anything special about him, but he just doesn't show up that much, so it's kind of neat to see him here. Yeah, he's showing some footage of these courses here, but he doesn't show these. Like most of the footage is from Warrior Field, so like he's playing like weird. He's not like playing the footage of the other courses. Just generally kind of played close to his chest. So this is like 4 stages. How many? Let me go to the website. I didn't want to do this at this moment, but let me just look at the website. So I think there's 6 courses that have been revealed so far. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on. I also have the Kirby Wiki page open here. Courses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 6. Why am I missing? Oh, because they don't show. So here they don't have Mount Hamberfall. They're like weird about this too. Like not like everywhere has like all 6 pages. Like they have some music on the Nintendo app. Like they don't have like all the courses in one place. I guess they don't have okay, yeah, because like Steam Dust Forge is not in here. So there's like 6 courses, but one of them seems to be like special or something. Like it's seemingly kind of like a perhaps like unlockable track. Where I don't know, this one specifically, it's like, okay, we've seen it. Like, obviously, I'm looking at it right now. It's not, like, hidden. Like, they've shown it in promotional material. But, like, they don't show it in the direct at all. Like, I think no footage takes place here, even though it's, like, on the website. But my main concern is, like, okay, is this all the courses? Like, is this all of them? I haven't really seen anyone talk about this, and, I don't want this to be all the courses, obviously, but I think this is, like, because the original Air Ride had like, I don't know, like 10 courses or like maybe 9. So this isn't like a huge downgrade, but it's also like, it would be a little rough if, I mean, I would get it. Like I understand like, okay, City Trial is like the main mode and like they probably put a lot of detail. These courses look really good as they are. So maybe like they just don't really have the time and budget to make more. But like, I feel like you can play Air Ride online as well as playing City Trial online, but I feel like it'd be kind of hard to justify spending that much time in there if there's not like if there's not like more than this. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. And I know I'm saying I do think there are more like machines and abilities and characters. Like the thing, my with every other like thing that like all the other stuff in the game. I think there's a pretty good chance, like really highly likely actually, that there's like more stuff and they just haven't shown it off yet. But here I'm like kind of concerned. Like I feel like this is like different. I feel like there's a decent chance this is like everything. I mean, I imagine all these courses will be fun and it'll probably still be a great game. but I feel like that could potentially be one of the major downsides. Major downsides is that there's like exactly 6 courses. And I don't think this game is going to get DLC either. I'm not going to like go super deep into that, but I think whatever the game has at launch is just whatever it's going to have. So this is, yeah, Star Slide. This is kind of a like slipstream mechanic. I've seen a lot of people say, like even people that have played the original game, that this is like, oh, this is like a fun little new mechanic. It's actually not. This was in the original game. And I messed around with it a bit, and I never really realized like how, like I kind of thought like, oh, maybe this is like they made it like extend further back than it did in the original, but like it extends pretty far back in the original Kirby era, and it's like not explained in the game at all. So I feel like this goes to show like how bad a problem the like conveyance of like mechanics was in the original game. Not only do like people that like not only do like game journalists and like, you know, just the average player like not really understand all the game's like core mechanics, but like even some of like the more like even stuff like this, which I would describe as a pretty important mechanic. You kind of need to use the slipstream to get a lot of speed if you're like behind. It feels like it's pretty important. Even stuff like this, even like mechanics like this are unknown to diehard fans of the game. Which is, so it's really kind of fascinating. Like all Sakurai is doing here is taking, because it's like, okay, when you defeat enemies, like stars go into your machine. So it's like, okay, you pick, in all instances, just you pick up little stars and it makes you go faster. And there, you know, there's stuff like that in the original game too. So it's kind of fascinating to me because this is not Sakurai introducing new mechanics. It is him like using like just like visuals to like better like portray in mechanics that already exist, which is crazy because it really shows like a lot of confidence in these mechanics and these ideas, because like the game was kind of critically panned because like nobody knew how to play it the first time, right? So it's he clearly like knows like, okay, the ideas are good, like the core gameplay is good, it's just that people didn't I think it takes a crazy amount of confidence in your game to basically say like, oh, it's not the mechanics that's the problem, it's the people that were the problem, and this time they'll see the little stars that you pick up and you go faster, but it's like mechanically the same, just visually different. He's really just like doubling down on like basically the same fundamentals. I don't know, I just think that's fascinating. Like they didn't modernize it like at all. I mean, I'm sure like it's polished and it probably feels like better than the original game. He does say that the game tempo is like on average faster, but just I don't know. It's very interesting to me that it's like that he's doing this. And yeah, I also like the design philosophy of you kind of attack things to speed yourself up rather than slow other players down. Because this is like this in stark contrast to Mario Kart, right? In Mario Kart, you like half the items exist. And I think like most of the items that aren't like a mushroom or a bullet bill or whatever, basically slow other players down. I think that's like on purpose, right? Like, I think Mario Kart, they don't want to getting like too fast. They kind of want to control the pace so it remains like, you know, an average speed, a family-friendly game. But I always feel kind of bad when also, this is weird, I didn't notice this until like I watched someone's like reaction to this earlier today, but like what is this? Like what is like some kind of like beta testing zone they're in? Like what is this weird like debug map they're on here for this shot specifically? I'm not gonna think about it too hard. I mean, maybe this is some kind of training area, but like what is this? But yeah, Mario Kart, you know, I always feel kind of bad like getting like triple red shells, because I'd rather like speed myself up and take like a huge shortcut rather than like deliberately like slow other people down. Like I'd rather gain places because I'm going faster, not because other people are slowing down. But like it makes sense that Mario Kart does that, right? But here, yeah, you go faster, and it's also kind of interesting to me that the focus is on like speeding yourself up rather than slowing other people down, because it feels like there's kind of, like Nintendo games are starting to have kind of like a motion sickness problem like they didn't have before, because I feel like Nintendo Switch 2 games are just like becoming like so like high fidelity and like fast paced. Like I mean, I don't think the games are like that much more fast paced on the Switch 1 Like on the Switch 2, it's like just enough graphics that like not like a large number of players, or not like most players, but like a significant, a not insignificant number of players seem to be getting like, motion sick, simply not even like doing anything crazy, just like simply playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. And I think like I watched like a Game Explain video, and they said that like, oh, the attendant recommended that the guy playing the game like step back a little bit because I guess the whatever like Gamescom employee would get kind of motion sick playing the game. And in this video, when I guess it happened earlier, Sakurai specifically said, oh, you might want to like step back or make the screen a little bit smaller. So interesting to me that the focus on the game is going like faster and faster, despite a apparent like motion sickness problem. Yeah, City Tryout. When he first said this, I was like, oh god, like it's still a sandbox, but, and it's like, okay, what's the but here? I was really concerned. It's like, oh, it's like a huge open world, or like it's, I don't know, some kind of like other like Fortnite Battle Royale or something. Oh, there's like a question mark. I didn't notice this before. But no, it's just that it's like a little bit bigger than the original map, and it's on a flying island. Sakurai does seem to really love putting things on flying islands, because like, okay, Battlefield and Smash Bros, like basically a lot of the stages in Smash Bros are like floating islands, but like also Smash Run is on a floating island. There's probably a lot of floating islands in like Kid Icarus Uprising, because it's an entire game about like being an angel and flying around and stuff. So he really loves his damn flying islands, but I assume it probably makes sense because it makes the game borders like easy to understand, because it's like, okay, it's just like a harsh cutoff. I mean, they kind of do this in Mario Odyssey without really admitting they're doing it, but it's clear where the level starts and ends, so to speak, because it's just a cliff, it's just a sheer cliff into nothing. But yeah, when I first saw this map, I was like, I don't know if I like this as much as the original, but as they started showing more of it, I was like, never mind, this is actually really cool. So here, okay, I have a couple of thoughts about some of these shots. So the flower field here, they show this like windmill here. It is probably just purely aesthetic, but it does have a little door in it, and it makes me wonder, like, okay, it makes me wonder, like, can you go inside? Like, can you break down this door, and is there something in there? Probably not, but the more they show that windmill, the more I think there's something there. I never see anybody talk about this, but these are, like, the things in the background of, like, Vegetable Valley in Kirby's Adventure. I guess it's kind of a weird thing to be like, oh, Pog! Like, just, do like a soy jack point, and, like, oh man, it's like the cookie thing, the cookie hill things from the Kirby's that one level in Kirby's Adventure. Nobody's doing that. I noticed. It does kind of feel to me like the overlap between Kirby Air Ride fans and like actual like hardcore dedicated Kirby fans is like not like a super huge overlap, but I don't know. Anyway, also this is where I kind of started getting really sold on this map, is the fact that there's like really major underground areas, and of course Wispy Woods has to be here. It's kind of interesting. I've watched like footage of like people playing the game at like Gamescom, and if you attack Wispy Woods, it like puts up one of those little like squares saying you damaged him, which I don't think it did in the original game. It doesn't really seem like there's much of a point to that, because he still just sits there and takes whatever damage you deal to him. So do I have anything to say? I mean, City Trail, like, again, this is also something that looks like shockingly similar. Like, there aren't any like huge reveals here, but that's kind of in itself a huge reveal. The fact that it looks like there's enough confidence in the original idea that it's basically the same. And yeah, like some of this is honestly kind of just surreal to see that like some of the stadiums are back like 1-to-1. I guess it'd be kind of interesting to see, like, I'm kind of surprised that like none of the original tracks, like none of the original like air ride tracks came back from the original game, but like it's kind of surreal to see just like some of the stadiums remade. Also, yeah, 16 players. This is like bigger than... Oh a normal race, but I feel like this is like, okay, this is still like within reason. Like it's not like 50 players or 100 players. Like it's keeping the SOAP relatively small, and I think that's good. It probably, I mean, I guess like Fortnite is literally on the Switch, but it feels like with a lot of Nintendo's like first-party games, they don't want to like have like multiplayer games that are like too many players or that take the games that take too long. Also, I really need to talk about this for a second, but like Splatoon doesn't have like games that are like any longer than like 5 minutes, or at least not without like, you know, competitive modes like overtime. But you know, 16 players is a good amount, I think. I don't think it's going to make. I think having more players on like a larger map does kind of, it could potentially lead to kind of interesting interactions. I don't know. I'm imagining like I'm imagining the argument that like 16 is too many and that this is going to somehow make it worse, but I don't really agree. So, okay, here's what I really wanted. This is just like a weird thing that I don't really get. For whatever reason, the rocket star in this screen has a red orb on it, and I think the red thrusters are normal, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what this is. I don't know why it's red here. Like, it's not red, like, well, it is red in one other spot, and I am going to point that out, but like, what does this mean? Like, it never did this in the original game. This isn't its fully charged state, because we see that in other points in the Direct. And like, it's just like idling here. Is this like a lighting thing? Is the orb just like really highly affected by lighting? And it just looks like that because it's like sitting here in the results screen. I don't know. I don't know if this implies some kind of larger mechanic. There is a different, I'm gonna hope I can like find it, but there is a different point in the Direct where I think we might have gone, no, I don't think we've gone past it yet. There's a different point in the Direct where the rocket star orb changes color, and I'm going to point that out at some point. So you first select the rider. This is kind of interesting. Okay, I guess I can talk about this now. It is kind of like interesting that in addition to, because part of the reason I didn't think there were going to be like multiple characters is because like, okay, the stats of the machine are already like the movement is already like dependent on what machine you're on. Like the machines were basically the characters. Now I think that the characters are really interesting because it's not just they have the different abilities. Like you can see that like they're saying like, okay, well, like some characters have like better or worse like turning, or at least I think this is how it works, because they have like stats on the stat screen. So it's like, okay, the characters will affect like the stats of the machine even before you get any power-ups. And I feel like that's going to like just increase like I feel like that's just going to be so interesting. Like, okay, you have machines with different stats and characters with different stats, and you can pick up items that change your stats. And I don't really feel like that's going to like take away from the game in any way, because I assume it's not going to make it like unbalanced. Like if you want to play with the original physics, you can just play as Kirby. Which also, by the way, I assume is like the only reason you'd really want to play as Kirby, because like if all this is another thing about all riders being able to use abilities. If all riders can use abilities, why would you want to play as Kirby? It seems what the answer that they're giving is that like, okay, Kirby like has like he's like the most well-rounded character. He's like the easiest to control. So I don't know. I guess if you're like not great at and I guess that kind of implies that like every other character like is like skewed in some direction towards like a different like focus on like one of their stats or something, or like a unique combination of stats. Okay, well, okay, I'm gonna pause here for a second, but I don't know, maybe all the other characters like I guess this is like kind of exciting. Like, okay, potentially all the other characters controlled differently enough that like Kirby is like the baseline and you'd want to play as him because like he's like the only character that controls like quote unquote normally. So also, yeah, here's what I was talking about with the rocket star. I didn't notice this until like yesterday, but here the rocket star is just idling and the orb is yellow, and then as Kirby gets on it, in fact, it seems to stop being. Is it yellow from a distance? Is it okay? I think no. That's actually just like the gold. Okay, now I'm realizing that's just like the gold trim on the orb. So the orb. All right, this is starting to make more sense. The orb is just off when you're not on it, and then as you get on it, it turns red, and then that goes from red. Then it does turn yellow. for like a pretty considerable amount of time here, you know, at least going by frame for frame, and then it becomes blue. And for the rest of the clip, it doesn't turn blue again. And when I said it turns yellow for a considerable amount of time, it only looked like that because I was going frame by frame. It's really a very short period of time. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's like some kind of like mechanic. It seems like there's something going on with the rocket star specifically. Alright, so this is also, this part is interesting. This is one of the bigger reveals in the city trial section for me, is the, like, the kind of, like, mini stadiums you can do, like, mid-game. Because this is just kind of interesting, like, okay, there's, like, a event that starts, and you have to specifically go to the reception. You have to, like, go to the reception area and wait. And then you can kind of do a little race through the zone, which isn't like mind-blowing on its own. I don't know, I just think this is like this is just an interesting idea. Probably lead to like more interesting interactions and strategy, because you can also choose to not participate if you have like something else going on. You can just ignore it. And yeah, there's also a Dust Up Derby version of it. I don't know why they renamed it from Destruction Derby to Dust Up Derby. I don't really care, but it's just like nothing else in the game has been renamed. Just kind of weird. Yeah, also, there's a green box. I didn't even notice this, that is staring me dead in the face. So yeah, red, they didn't really show too much of it in this direct, but the red and green boxes are still in the game. How did I not notice this one is literally right here? I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I don't know if green boxes, like they'll find like footage of like a red box and they'll be like, oh, I don't know if green boxes are still in the game, and I don't care if they get cut either. Like, I wouldn't mind if the green boxes were not in the game. But they are. There's one right here. And yeah, that's kind of cool. You can participate in a dust-up derby, but then, like, the stakes aren't that high. Like, you want to, like, win to get the stats, but you can lose and not lose your machine. Okay, yeah, so some of the events are kind of interesting. I hope there's at least, like, a third boss, but even getting Krakow is, like, okay, in the original game, that would be just kind of crazy. But some of these events feel weirdly like kind of like an apology for the original game, because the original game had events that were like, oh, like there's a bunch of fake items and if you pick them up, it hurts you, or like all the items contain the same, or all the boxes contain the exact same items, and a lot of the time it would just contain food. So it was just an event where basically all boxes are useless and you can't get any actual items. Here, there's stuff like, and also there was one where like, oh, items are bouncy, so you can't like actually pick them up because they're bouncing around, which is really annoying. Here there's stuff like, oh, all items became gigantic, or all players became tiny, or like, oh, you're like all items, like making the items easier to pick up in particular feels like an apology for the ones in the original game that make it like harder to pick it up. But there's also ones that were just like, oh, your machine flies easier, or everyone is tiny, and that just makes it feel like they... Also, what the hell is this? Hold on. Oh, this is just okay, they're just playing Gourmet Race. I was wondering, like, why is there, like, a barrier around here? I don't know, that still looks kind of weird, but they're not in, like, the regular city trial. They're clearly in Gourmet Race in that footage. The events still generally look kind of good. I assume there's probably really cool ones that just like haven't actually shown off yet. Because there were more events in like the Gamescom demo that were not in this direct. Also, this is something... Well, okay, there's a couple of freeze frame analysis moments I have to do here. This is another way where Kirby Air Riders kind of is in opposition to Mario Kart, where Mario Kart, like, it doesn't have a speedometer. It doesn't tell you, like, the exact... Like, there's hidden stats on vehicles. Like, it doesn't tell you a lot of the information about, like, what the stats of different carts are, when it's, like, information you'd really want to know, right? The most important stats are the ones they intentionally obfuscate. And I think, like, the bars they do show you are, like, not entirely accurate. And, of course, the game doesn't have, like, a speedometer when you're driving around, and Kirby Air Ride does. So, like, in Mario Kart... Like, they don't want you putting a number, they don't want you analyzing it too much. They don't want you putting a number to, like, the speed you're going. Whereas Kirby Air Riders, not only is there, like, a speedometer, but also there's kind of, like here you're given, like, you're given like, if we go forward a second here, so this is like his full stats. He has like 6 boost, and his boost stat is like 184. So you're given like exact numerical stats for like what the traits of your machine are. It's just so interesting. It's just like like Mario Kart is like, all right, hiding a bunch of like vital information from you, whereas Kirby Air Ride is just like, I am not like a Mario Kart World hater. Like I'm not like being like, oh, Kirby Air Rider is epic and Mario Kart World is cringe. I mean, I like Mario Kart World. I'm not saying like this is what I do, but I do like Kirby Air Ride better, and I'm anticipating that I will like this game more than Mario Kart World anyway. But I'm just saying like this is just an interesting way in which they differ. Like the objectives of like Mario Kart and Kirby Air Ride are very different. Okay, and I immediately have to freeze again. What is this? Why is there... This is a Waddle Dee with no bandana or spear riding on the paper star. Why? What? Are you telling me that like regular Waddle Dee is playable in addition to like bandana Waddle Dee? Is this just like a cosmetic thing? Can you like take his bandana off? But then if that's the case, why would his spear also be gone? Because you need it for like hitting enemies with your spear. Like that'd be kind of weird if that was just invisible. And this is not just like a weird visual, because this is not like a JPEG where he like happens to be missing his like bandana. This might have been visible earlier in the direct, but there's footage of this like bandana-less Waddle Dee driving around in like one of the videos for like the lessons mode. So there's just like a weird cryptid that's been showing up in some of the footage of this game. It's just Waddle Dee, playable Waddle Dee with no bandana. No idea what the hell that means. There is like a cosmetic system seemingly, because there's like a little on the character select screen. There's a button with like I should have paused. I don't remember if the character select screen has shown up. I have to find it to talk about it at some point. But there's like a little button that seems to be like for cosmetics, so potentially this is related to that. And I imagine the cosmetics, unless the cosmetic system, I don't think the cosmetics are going to have like a huge effect on gameplay, because like it'd be kind of weird if like, okay, in addition to your character affecting your stats and your machine affecting your stats and your items affecting your stats and like everything else that like augments how your machine controls, there were also hats that like further augmented them. I guess I wouldn't entirely put it past Sakurai to do that, but also like it seems like a bit much. But otherwise, I don't care like too much about the cosmetic system, but it is kind of weird that there's just like a hatless Waddle Dee. Anything weird about this? Well, okay, is this the same shot as earlier? It's not, right? Like this is another shot of the... Okay, yeah, here it is. There's a different shot. I guess I can like look at this. There's a different shot of the rocket star having this like red orb in like the results screen. So maybe this is just what happens to it when it's here. Where was I before though? Yeah, I was like around here. Also, yeah, something kind of interesting about this event is that this event about the room opening, we can see like, okay, there's this cave that can open, and I think that cave actually might be in like a volcano or whatever. And there's multiple secret rooms that can open, but he really seems to like showing that one particular one that like opens up out of a rock face. Yeah, so yeah, he had like 10 in a stat. These are like different stats. These are like different stats from what he had before. I'm not going to lose my place again. I'm just going to stay here. But yeah, this is definitely 2 different shots of the rocket star just like being red in the results screen. So I guess it just kind of does that. Oh, okay. One interesting thing I can say about the stadiums is that there's one stadium that's like a oval race, and they actually show a lot of footage of it, even in like the air ride section of this direct. It's just kind of like a slightly like more like generic like oval track, which seems to only exist for stadiums. I mean, I think I can go over to not here. Okay, well maybe it just shows up later in the direct or something. I don't remember. There's a course that's just like a oval track, which is just like a stadium you can play on. That's just like a regular race that is not a drag race or a quote unquote single race And they show a lot of, I assume they just show a lot of footage of that because it's just like a basic racetrack that they can like showcase how the game works. Alright, this is kind of interesting. He starts like talking about like, oh, your chances of winning are only 1 in 16. He kind of like starts like, you know, philosophizing about the game design here, just like in front of us. Just kind of, I don't know, kind of an interesting moment to like introduce what he's about to introduce. But yeah, when I first saw this, and when many people first see this, you kind of assume this is like a voting system, like you are voting on which stadium to play here, but you're actually not. Like what's happening here is that there's basically 4 separate instances. There's basically an entrance of each stadium you can join, and you are choosing which one to participate in, like on the spot. And basically, like if you choose Target Flight, then you and other players that chose Target Flight go in there, and then if someone else chose Dust Up Derby, it's not like you have a chance to play Dust Up Derby with them. They just go in the Dust Up Derby and you don't. So that's kind of interesting because it means that like potentially, like depending on who picks what stadium, there can be 4 different players that will win like first place in a game of City Trial, which is kind of interesting because that way you're only really like taking victory over like players that pick the same stadium as you, not necessarily everyone else in the City Trial. I guess I don't know, just kind of interesting. Really want to see how that's going to play out. I can't imagine that it's going to like potentially like ruin the fun of it, that like, oh no, I didn't beat everyone, I only beat like the 4 people that joined the stadium with me. And this is also why later they show that like, okay, if you're the only person that, if there's like a whole thing where it's like, okay, there's like a choosing which stadium to go into is kind of a meta game, but like if you manage to be the only person that picks a specific stadium, you just win instantly, which is kind of funny. This is kind of a thing where like, okay, you do see people kind of get like, as I mentioned, like, oh, why do you build up like stats for like 7 minutes just for like a 30-minute mini game, or for a 30-second mini game that potentially like your machine isn't suited for, and you just lose instantly? Like if it seems like there's a lot of luck involved in this, and I never really felt there's like it didn't really bother me in the original game, but it makes, I feel like this will probably help with the feeling that like, oh, what you did was pointless. Like, and I think this is better than just like voting for the stadium, because if you voted for a stadium and you didn't get the one you wanted, then it would have like the same effect. You just, and by chance had the wrong build. But yeah, this whole thing is interesting to me because you can kind of clearly see that like Sakurai is thinking about like, okay, how do we make the whole like gameplay loop of City Trial like as fun as possible? And part of this is like kind of like doing something about the randomness of the stadium at the end. Alright, so here's the footage of him playing the game. Also, this is something else that I thought was kind of interesting, is that like, first of all, the game has an announcer, so like when you get on a star, it like says what the name of the star you're on is, but also like the icons of every star like has the name under it. That's kind of interesting to me because I've heard a lot of people like anecdotally, they will like, they remember the stars from the original game, but like they didn't actually know what they are all called, even though it does say like in the game, like there's like little videos that like tell you what all the stars are called. So it's not even that you have to like read the manual or like look online. Like a lot of people like don't know the names of the stars. They just know them like, oh yeah, like I hear a lot of people say this specifically. They'll say like, oh yeah, I remember like the one that's like an ice cream truck. They don't know that it's called like the wagon star. So I feel like they kind of want the choice to like have the game like directly tell you what the name of each star feels like it's meant to, you know, address that directly. Also, I don't know if like the wagon star is actually supposed to be an ice cream truck or not. That just people just look at it and think that. Like I've just really commonly see people say it looks like some kind of ice cream truck. Also, this is kind of a weird moment. there's a unique type of box here that Sakurai simply does not interact with. He just goes past this, and there's a different like new type of box later in this same game, but he does interact. It's a different thing. Like it's a that's the rare box that he interacts with is not this. So he just completely skims over this, and I assume that's on purpose. I had someone tell me that apparently these boxes just explode when you open them, which I guess would make sense. The boxes are also, I don't know if you see this here at all, but the boxes are like a little bit more subject to physics. They can get like knocked away from you. Like you can, I've seen in like the Gamescom footage, or footage from people playing at Gamescom, that you can like, you can hit a box and it kind of flies away from you a little bit. So maybe there will be something to that with the explosive boxes where you can like hit them into things or hit them into other players. Also, there's enemies just kind of randomly around the city, and it's kind of like, okay, but why though? It seems like all of them are like Waddle Dees or Dales, which are just like regular enemies that don't give abilities. And it's like, okay, but it's not like you really need the speed boost from defeating them. And yeah, here's the rare box. This does for a while I thought that this might like the rare boxes might potentially replace like all patches, but I've watched. The UFO event is still in the game. It showed up in one of like some of the Gamescom, and somebody's like footage of the Gamescom demo, and that had an all patch on it. So all patches are still in the game. Rare boxes are just like another new thing. But yeah, I have to wonder if like random enemies in the city like give you like if they give you like patches for picking them up, or if they give you patches for killing them rather, or if they're just there for flavor or something, because they're just like Waddle Dees hanging out in the city, and it's like, why are they there? What's the purpose? I guess another thing, I don't really have too much to say about what's going on screen right now, but another thing is that he does not at any point show or hint towards the existence of the legendary machines from the original game, which is a noticeable omission, right? Like why are they not? Why did he show them? I assume they're still in the game, or because like okay, the Dragoon has been like the Kirby Air Ride thing that shows up in other games like Smash Brothers and like other Kirby games. You know, it's in like the last 3 Smash games. It's always like the one thing from Kirby Air Ride that gets referenced. It would be really crazy if the Dragoon was like not like Kirby Air Ride finally gets a sequel, and the Dragoon wasn't in it anymore. But I feel like that's just he just didn't happen to get around to that. I feel like here he's showing like the basics of the game. Giving like an overview of what the game is like, rather than going into any. Okay, there he like killed a Waddle Dee, but it like didn't give him like an ability patch or anything. Maybe it just happened to not do that. Also, yeah, here he just kind of like flies like off the edge of the course to avoid this event, which is fun. I have to assume this is part of the reason why this is a floating island, so you can do this, so you can kind of just fly off the edge if you have a good enough flying stat. I love how much he's just like, wow, this game is awesome. Also, here this is funny that like he didn't like do so like edit this out or like just like do something about this. Here he wants to show getting off the machine, but getting off the machine and using your special is the same button, so he had his special charge there. So if you're not like paying attention to that, he just like uses his special for seemingly no reason, and he just says, "Oh, I'm using a special right now," or he doesn't say why. I mean, it's like literally like completely an accident. Also, yeah, this is kind of interesting. Here he says like, "Oh, my weight has increased, so I got to boost my defense as well." A lot of fans of the original game also don't really know how like the stats work, like the different stats from like a lot of people would not be able to tell you what weight does. And I think early in this direct he mentions that like getting top speed or something like lowers your defense. I don't know if it works like that in the original game, but I assume this game will probably do a better job of actually like explaining what the different power-ups do, because it was like if you get something like top speed, like okay, it's largely explanatory that increases your top speed, but there's like other effects that people like don't really know about. Like even people that actually like the game don't entirely know what all the stats do. I don't know, there's just a lot of things about Kirby Air Ride that like even people that enjoy the game and consider themselves huge fans just like don't know. Like how to like where the like legendary machine parts are like located in like the city. So it just really goes to show how poorly explained. Like it's not like a problem with the game that like the game works the way it does. It's just it doesn't explain a lot of mechanics that just like are not self-explanatory. And I think that's probably a major thing they want to improve on in this game. Oh, this is weird. I don't really understand this. When you get an item, if you have an item and you pick up another item, that other item gets put in reserve. This doesn't apply to copy abilities. That's fine and good. Yeah, so items can be stored in reserve and automatically appear once your current item is used up. So you can store items, but you can't really like hoard them. Like you can, I don't really get the point. Like it would make sense if you could put an item in storage and then hold it for later in the game, but it seems like the way this works is simply that you put in if you pick up an item while you have another item, instead of wasting the other item, it just gets held on to it for later. Which is like, okay, sure, I guess this won't make like a huge difference, and that's not really even a feature I don't think anyone was asking for. It's not like it'll really have any, I guess they don't want it to have like any long-term effect. And I guess like they still want it to be a 2-button game, right? Like if you wanted to have like items in reserve and having some way to take items out, that would require a 3rd button, and we can't be having that. But yeah, I don't know, the whole like reserve item feature is like, okay, I guess that's neat. Not a huge deal. Yeah, here he's talking about stadium predictions, which were not particularly my favorite part of the original game because they just lie to you sometimes, and it seems like in this game, it seems like okay, well this is kind of interesting. There's a prediction like item. But the other thing is that, yeah, the lies, like, I don't really get the point of this. Like, if you just look hard enough, like like surely this is part of, like, they didn't just like edit this. This looks like the kind of thing where this could easily be edited into the video. Like, I don't trust this entirely, but it's the way it seems like this is intended to be part of the game, but it's like, okay, what is the point of a fake prediction if there's just also text that tells you it's fake? Okay, yeah, so here we see he's talking about how if too many players enter a stadium, they get split up in the group. So you can't, not only, like, is most of the time are you not going to be playing with, like, the stadiums are going to, like, everyone is going to be split up between the different stadiums, but also if too many people join one stadium, then they get split up in the group. So at no point are you ever playing these, like, the city trial itself is 16 players, but stadiums are not. So like the actual like core like anything except city trials, like, it's just going to be like 6 players at most. Yeah, and here's like the oval course I was mentioning before. Alright, and here's something that I think is kind of important. He doesn't really specify how this works, but he says like, oh, if you're playing online, you can jump to another. So the main thing I'm wondering about how the online works, I mean, I guess this part is pretty clear, but like, are you going to be able to like queue up with friends? Because in Mario Kart World, you kind of can't. Like, you can't really make a party with friends and then join a lobby, even though the game has like 24-player lobbies. That would not like really affect it too much. It instead works where you have to, one person just has to click the, online race button, and then your friends have to go to your friends list and join you, and just hope there's enough space in the room that you happen to join. And then also it's like, it's apparently possible, but it's like basically just not, you can't actually join your friends on like knockout tours. So if you want to play knockout tours with your friends online with like randos, then you just seemingly kind of can't. um, and you can't like make a custom room and then invite randos into it the way you could in a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't know, the online. This is one of my like actual complaints with Mario Kart World. Is that like the online like lobby system is just so much more bare bones than Mario Kart 8. Even like the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I mean, I think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch might have had like more features, but I don't know. But so I'm. He did say earlier that like okay, unless you're playing online or with friends, then you can just jump straight to the next match, which is like okay. I don't know if like the logically that means like okay, can you playing online with friends and with randos? Um, I feel like City Trial in particular, it'd be kind of lame if you couldn't queue up with friends. I guess like you're not like in a team, so it maybe would not make it entirely make sense to be doing that. But also like if you're going to have like online multiplayer, like you're not going to have like 16 friends to play with it. If I want to play like 16 player, if I want to be playing with friends and with humans and a full game of 16 players in City Trial, I'm going to want to get like 2 or 3 friends and then we join like a lobby and then like, you know, 14 other humans or whatever join. And this it does seem like the online system in this makes more sense than Mario Kart. So I mean, I'm gonna place a little bit of faith in Sakurai and hope that the online like works in a reasonable way, but there's not really any confirmation that it does, or at least not that I'm aware. And also, there is a voting system for there is a voting system for Stadium if you're like playing with like 3 people or something. So here he talks about I don't really care about like these like Disney songs Nintendo is like adding to their game has been like adding to their games over the years, but here he talks about oh you can hear this song. What exactly does he say here? Yeah, he says like oh it'd be released on Nintendo Music later today along with some other tracks. So the point of this section, yeah, it's the section was called like main theme, and he's talking about oh you can put the theme is playing in the background. He's talking about how it's going to be put on Nintendo Music. So when I saw this, I just kind of assumed like, oh, they're going to put out the Starlit Journey English version and Japanese version, I guess, on the app, and that's it. But no, there actually are like I think like 3 or 4 like stage tracks like from Air Ride mode. Like you can listen to like the Florida Fields and the some other tracks just on the Nintendo Music app. They're just on there. There's more. There's a little bit more than what he's letting on here. So this is a little bit more interesting than what he's making it seem like. I really do not care to like. Okay, you can go to the app music app to listen to this main theme, which I really do not want. I really do not care about that. But there is a little bit more on the app, which is also kind of strange. Like why that's not how the Nintendo Music app has really been used up until this point. But whatever, it's just kind of neat. It kind of feels like it's Sakurai is doing what he did with like a Smash Ultimate website where there was like a music tab and you can listen to some of the music on there. But instead of being on the Kirby Air Riders website, which is I'm going to show that off in a second. He's just making use of the Nintendo Music app, which is kind of weird, but I suppose it's neat. I mean, I think that's all I have to say about. I don't think I need to go back to the Direct. I do have more to say, but I don't think I'd need to be looking at the actual literal video. Oh wait, no, we're gonna have the. All right, so yeah, here's this bit. You know, by design, like nobody really knows to make nobody really knows what to make of this, but like, what is this? I assume this is probably for like some kind of story mode. Because okay, why are you like introducing like a seemingly like a villainous character? Because like a lot of usually Kirby's I've seen people point out like usually Kirby games have some kind of story with like original characters. And also like I didn't really notice until earlier today, but this feller seems to have some kind of like fleet of ships back here, and there's like a main like some kind of big vehicle just like on the ground here. So it seems like there's definitely some kind of like it's not just this guy. There's some kind of enemy fleet. But yeah, on that subject, like who is this? Like the most I a lot of clearly he's kind of meant to evoke like dark matter swordsman or dark matter blade or whatever he's called, but he's not. It's not him. Like there's obviously he has like the exhaust pipe coming out of his eye, but there's also other design differences. Like he has like King Dedede's like kind of crown thing, and this he doesn't have like the same eye. Like Dark Matter Blade is like a mono eye thing. He doesn't have like this kind of oval eye, like this Kirby eye, and there's differences. The most like interesting theory I've seen so far is that like okay, he has like the Dedede thing. This mask seems to be covering what is potentially like a beak, and it has like mittens like similar to Dedede. So perhaps this is either like some kind of dark Dedede or just like another member of his species. He's also riding a wheelie bike the same way Dedede did in the original Kirby Air Ride. Um, but yeah, just figuring out this is potentially some kind of dark Dedede does not really. I don't know. I guess maybe that reveals more information, but really, I don't know. It's not really by design. We're not really meant to know what that last bit means. I do think a story mode would make sense, though. I feel like the Kirby Air Ride is like positioned well to have a story. Like the mechanics of Kirby Air Ride make sense for a story, like a campaign, because you can race, but there's also combat. Like you can fight things, so it would make sense if there's like different missions around. Like okay, you can have racing missions, or like missions where you have to like chase a machine down and destroy it, or even missions that are just like head on battles, like Destruction Derby or Dust Up Derby. Sorry, and you even potentially have like uh like missions like on foot or something. Like Kirby Air Ride has always had you've been able to like get off your machine, but like there is like platforming. You can jump and like jump between like quote unquote platforms. Any if you're jumping over a gap or like jumping like from a lower surface to a higher surface, that is platforming, even if the map wasn't really designed for it in the original game. So there's always been sort of a platforming element to Kirby Air Ride. It's just never really been that utilized. And of course, like the machines can like fly around and do platforming as well. But I have to wonder, like, okay, if there was a story mode or like some kind of like mission mode, would you have missions where you, or like literally like like having like a 3D platformer like on foot moment? Because all the characters, as we've seen, you can see all the characters are able to get off their machines and walk around. Also, because there's like combat, they don't even have to do the like crash team racing thing where like an alien comes down and is just like, oh, I'm gonna destroy your planet unless you beat me in a race for no reason. No, they can have this just be that like, okay, this is just like some other like grander threat that wants to take over the world, and we need to defeat them like physically. Like it's not like they're specifically themed around racing. It just turns out that like using air ride machines is the best way to take them down in universe in this situation. And you can fight them directly with, you can destroy their machines, so you can just like take them down physically the same way you would like any other Kirby villain. So if there is a story mode, I think for a lot of reasons Kirby Air Ride is actually like well suited for a kind of campaign. I'm not going to expect there's going to be like anything like really major hiding in the next direct, because like okay, they are clearly hiding stuff. Like they didn't show all the abilities. Like Needle Kirby and Fighter Kirby. Fighter Kirby is totally new to this game, and Needle Kirby is not. But to Air Ride specifically, not Kirby as a whole. But I mean, Needle and Fighter are in the Gamescom demo. They're just like casually there. You can just get them, and they're not in this direct at all. Not only do they not show it in the ability showcase, but they don't show up like in the gameplay or in the background like at all. At least I don't think they might. Actually, they might show up like as like icons somewhere, but they're just like in the Gamescom demo, and you can see like gameplay footage of those abilities being used. There's obviously stuff being hidden from us, but I don't know if anything so massive as like a subspace emissary like sized story is like there, because I don't know. I feel like usually when Sakurai, I guess we don't really have that huge of a sample size of this, but I feel like when Sakurai like does like directs for these, like reveals his games in directs, most of the stuff like gets revealed sooner rather than later. Like I feel like with Smash Ultimate, when we got like the August 8th direct or whatever that revealed like K. Rool and Simon and Richter and all that. That was like at that point we had seen like we had unknowingly like seen like all the stages, and I think most of the interesting things about the game had been revealed at that point. To the point where the direct with like Incineroar and Ken felt kind of underwhelming by comparison. I suppose the difference is that like direct or Smash Ultimate had like 3 directs rather than 2. Or I assume this is because this game comes out in like 3 months, and but like Sakurai is saying he wants to like talk about it again. So like, when are you gonna do that, buddy? uh, but yeah, I feel like it's entirely possible that like most of the features that have been yet to be revealed are like relatively minor, which is kind of why I feel like there might not be like top ride. But yeah, clearly this like teaser at the end is like hinting at something, but I'm not gonna like I and I think it could. I'm not like I don't really care too much if it is or isn't a story mode, but I do think it would work if that's what they're hinting at. Okay, so that's the end of the direct, but not the end of my yapping. We got to explore the website for a bit. There's not like too much new information here. Most of what I have to say is on like the characters page. It is kind of interesting that they list the star, like the new stars in this way. It gives a little more credence to the idea that the Tang star is like a new type of star rather than just a regular star. But you can see even in Japanese it's called the Tang star, but it is like shown like over here instead of like over here. I'm not going to analyze that too much. Well, I guess I can show this while I'm here. But okay, here, one of the things that I skimmed over watching the direct is the existence of the Iron Ball ability. Also, I think here we can see Waddle. This is just from the direct. Here we can see Waddle Doo using the burning attack. Over here, okay, they're loaded. You can see this is also from the direct, and this is just footage of the Iron Ball ability. I think the Iron Ball ability is so funny because it's like, okay, it doesn't have like a hat. It's not like, most abilities kind of have like a unique like hat or something kind of interesting about them. The Iron Ball is just an Iron Ball. Like it makes sense. I know that's like, okay, they probably just, I can see the appeal of this. It's like, okay, you turn into a ball and you kind of like bowl. They have like enemies set up like bowling pins. It's understandable that it's like, I get why they'd want to include this, and it makes it kind of seems more like an item rather than an ability. But like they want it to be available in air ride mode, so they have to make it an ability. But it's just kind of funny that like it's just Iron Ball ability, or no, I think it's literally called Steel Ball. Like JoJo, wow. And the icon is just a funny little iron ball. And then the other thing is that like, okay, here's videos of all the specials. Nothing too crazy here, although they didn't show Gooey special when his special is this. Now, if you're a true Gooey fan, you would know that this is just kind of something he does, but it is a pretty cool special, and they just didn't show it in the direct, so that's neat. Okay, here it is. I don't know how I didn't see this before. Yeah, Kirby has like the most colors, and it's kind of unclear if the other characters will have more colors or that just aren't that are just like unrevealed, or if some of them if a lot of them just genuinely only have 2 colors. But yeah, Kirby has some alternate colors. These just, it's been stated by the way that these just like reuse the specials, like these other 3 colors just reuse 3 of the specials from. He doesn't have 7 specials. He just, the same 4 get reused for these other colors. And Brown Kirby has been replaced with like the Game Boy Color, or well, the colors referencing Game Boy Kirby, not Kirby on the Game Boy Color. That's kind of cute, and it's specifically like, okay, it's not just like his like body gets recolored. You can see his mouth and eyes are also recolored. Like it really commits to the whole monochrome thing. DDD just has like some outfits from Smash, which is funny. Meta Knight, okay, but this is also kind of interesting. Meta Knight has alts that like alter the shape of his mask. You can see here, like, okay, not too much is getting changed here. It's like his sword isn't changing shape or anything. But yeah, there's like a slash on his mask that like makes him look like Dark Meta Knight. And then here's another one that changes his mask even more. This is not like a full conversion into Galactonite because he has a sword instead of the spear, and he doesn't have the shield or anything. But he does, like, okay, you can see this little middle ridge gets removed, and then the hole is a different shape. So he definitely, it's a little bit more going on than just like an alternate color. Yui just has slightly darker GUI to reference his like SNES color palette. Magalore turns into like ep, uh, Magalore epilogue Magalore, and I guess Susie. I guess this is a color palette she's had at some point. I just don't really remember that. Okay, yeah. So while I'm thinking about it, I'll talk about the character roster. I definitely think there's more character. I mean, you can see here, I feel like this is not debatable. There are more characters. This is not the random button. You can press. You can see down here that you can press plus to pick a random character. So this is not random. This is an unlocked character slot, and it's probably just like a catch-all for like all like as of yet locked characters. Um, so there are more characters. Just the question is like how many, and it really seems like there's space. So there's 3 rows of 4 here. So there's 12 characters currently. It seems like there's room for like exactly 3 more rows. So it seems pretty safe to say that there's probably like 24 characters. Now, obviously, UI designers will put and as I've said earlier, like devil's advocate, UI designers will put empty spaces in places for visual reasons, but so this doesn't necessarily mean there's exactly like that many slots left. And if this was like Smash Brothers Ultimate like speculation days, then I feel like I would get burned at the stake for like trying to gauge how many characters are left based on like how many like slots there are visually, because I mean that could mean anything. There could be more or less, like just because maybe it only goes down to like here and then there's like empty space at the bottom here, but like realistically that I think there's just 24 characters. Like it feel there has to be more, and there's probably 24. Like let's not kid ourselves here. Like that clearly this is a half full roster just based on how much space they're taking up on the screen here. So with that out of the way, like what characters could potentially be added here? I think obviously a lot of people. I think Marks is like definitely in because like okay, Sakurai. It's a Kirby Superstar thing. Like I feel like there's no way Sakurai would leave Marks out when he like specifically added him as a boss in Smash Ultimate. I think most of the Dream Friends are safe because like okay we have like Magalore, Gooey, and Susie, so I feel like there's actually not like too many more characters they would need to add to get all of the Dream Friends in. Here, actually, let me pull up my list I made. Okay, here we go. So here's a list of the characters that we already have in the game. Dark Matter car form. And the characters then, so if we're assuming that there's another 12 like character spots left, um, we can pretty easily fill. I think like 6 of the spots will probably go to the remaining uh, Dream Friends. So what I don't think. Oh, okay, so Dark Meta Knight is a Dream Friend, but I don't think he's going to be in because he already has a Meta Knight, like one of Meta Knight's skins is Dark Meta Knight, so I don't think he's going to be in. But other than that, um, like you only really need like these 6 to basically have all the Dream Friends. I guess. Well, you wouldn't have. I'm not sure about the Mage Sisters because there's 3 of them, so it's like okay, would they have all 3 or like only one? Maybe they could be like one character and it's just like alts, like a Bowser Jr. situation. But um, if not all the Dream Friends are in, I do think at the very least like Marks is extremely likely. But I think like okay, there's not that many characters you'd have to add. Also, like Elfin isn't a Dream Friend because I spelled his name wrong here. His name is spelled like L L Ilin, like that. I don't think he's not a Dream Friend because obviously his game was not out when Star Allies came out, but he was like a mask in like the carnival in Kirby's Return to Dreamland, and I imagine they probably would want, if they're gonna have like a rep for every game, they'd probably want to have a rep for Forgotten Land. So I feel like that's pretty likely. And if they do have the Mage Sisters and there's still space, this is why I said put a pin in Sakurai saying like not all characters will be major, or not all riders will be major characters, because that implies that like okay, some of the characters there still has to be space in this roster for. Okay, I assume these some of the empty spaces I have down here will probably be like random like enemies, like probably like Bugsy or I don't know, just random guys. Who knows? Um, characters along the lines of like Cappy or Starman. But he's saying not all writers will be major characters implies that like okay, some of them will be, because when he says that when he's like talking about Starman, and Starman is like the last new writer he shows. I know like characters like Daroch or Taranza might seem like kind of weird picks, um, but you do not like most of the Dream Friends are already in. They do not have to add that many more to have like the complete set, so I think they just will. Also on like Rick and Adeline, I think they will be by themselves. I do not think Rick is going to come with Kine or Q. Adeline might come with like ribbon on her shoulder or something, but I feel like it would just be simpler to like have these characters be by themselves. Um, and I suppose then that leaves the possible. I think it's still possible that like Rick and Q will be like separate writers, but I don't really know and I don't really care. I think Rick will be one way or the other. I think Rick will just be in the game by himself. It doesn't really matter to me if Kai and Q are also there, but I just think at the very least Rick would get in first. Uh, but yeah, I think that's about all I have to say. But there's gonna be probably like more, a few, at least a few more Dream Friends added, and then more like funny little guys. I assume. I also assume that like the evil DDD or whatever is probably also a playable character you can unlock. So at least one slot I would have to go to him. But like even like being kind of generous, like even if I added like the Mage Sister just like here, we still it still does not fill the entire theoretical roster. And like yeah, maybe I suppose even if there's 3 rows, I guess there could just not be 4 characters in the last row. Or it does look. I'm pretty sure it would fit. The 4 rows would fit. And also like yeah, like if I feel like the UI, like the argument that like the extra space doesn't mean anything is like okay, well if they wanted to use this space they could, right? Like if the character roster was smaller, then these icons could just be bigger, or the roster or the character selection could look different. I think also conversely, if the roster was bigger than 24 players, I don't think it would look like this. I feel like I guess theoretically like it could like scroll downwards, but I don't really think that's the case, because I think if there was like more than, because like this game is really leaning into like a lot of the menus kind of like lean into like looking like Smash Bros, right? Like the character reveals are like, oh, Kirby is here, looks like Smash, and like when you win, like as I pointed out, like the win screen looks like Smash Ultimate. So I feel like if there was like a lot of characters, they would probably kind of want to make this menu potentially look like the Smash Bros. Character select screen. And the fact that there's like only 24 characters makes me think that like, okay, since there's a smaller number, they opted for something else instead. That's just what I don't know. It's I guess anything is possible, but I feel like about 24 characters, give or take, is probably about right. Also, on the machines, I do think there are more machines, but I don't think there's too many more, because like these machines appear randomly in City Trial, which means that like the more machines that the bigger the pool is, like the less likely you are to see the same machine like, consistently. And I feel like there's got to be like a sweet spot for like, okay, how many machines in City Trial is too many or too few? And I feel like just like a few more, like maybe like 5-ish, give or take more, would probably be enough where it's like, okay, there's a decent number of machines in the game, but there's not like too many that it like overcomplicates City Trial. I mean, obviously they can't just put in infinite machines, but I feel like there is such a thing as too many, and they probably won't put in too many more than this. Although I do think that they have not shown every machine that there is in the game. Also, another reason, so okay, there's not too much, I don't think I have too much left to say. Another reason I think that Rick, Kine, and Q are not, or their Kine and Q are not necessarily playable. Apparently, according to the wiki, Kine like makes a background cameo somewhere. I actually don't know what they're talking about. Like, but apparently Rick Kine appear. I kind of need to wait on confirmation for that, but that's probably, I'm assuming that's probably just real. I mean, it could also, even if he is in the background of some level, it could be just the kind of thing where it's like, oh, if you're playing as him, he doesn't show up. So it really does not actually mean anything. Uh, an unknown being clothed in black, resembling King D. Okay, so people are starting to drink the dark DDD Kool-Aid. Uh, And then yeah, there's also something kind of interesting. So this initially I kind of thought like, oh well, if an enemy, it seems like enemies you can play as, like enemy characters you can play as, are not like will not show up as uh like actual enemies in the game. But I've seen like Gamescom footage where like Cappies show up as like enemies you can fight. So that's not true. Like it's not like all these enemies are like necessarily deconfirmed as playable characters. It is kind of interesting that there is a character. Yeah, press screenshot. In this screenshot, which yes, another mention of GUI mock matter mode. There's a new enemy for jet ability, which is kind of interesting. Now, interestingly, the jet enemy in Kirby Superstar has undergone a redesign before. I don't know why they did that. So, and maybe this is just like a thing where they just don't they'd rather have a new enemy rather than the one that like the Superstar helper, because there's instances where instead of having Poppy Bros, they have like Balloon Bomber. So it could just be that this enemy like suited the needs of the game better. But it is kind of interesting that there's a new jet enemy, and there's also a new fire enemy. Can I get that? Where is that? Is that guy? Burn Bon? Is that a named Kirby enemy? He doesn't have a Nintendo Today news post. Okay, whatever. Oh, I guess he's named, but you've seen him. The little like guy, the little butterfly guy. There's a new enemy for fire that's not the fire elephant from the original Kirby Air Ride. So I don't know if that implies that like Burning Leo is like a playable character. I don't think there's too much information you can extrapolate from that. This is just like a random little thing that I think is like so interesting. Is that like kept like in the original Air Ride, if you like damaged an enemy, then it would like it just like didn't really, it just like put a box with their face on it like up here in like the corner of the screen without really explaining what that means. It was kind of interesting because it would display like enemy characters and like other players with like equal like representation. Um, like it's not really shown here, but like it would just show like, okay, you can hit like a Waddle Dee and you'd see like a close up of a Waddle Dee's like face like in the screen, but then you can also hit like another Kirby or like someone playing as Meta Knight or Dedede even, and it just like shows them like casually show up in the same way that like enemies would. And I think also like there's like a box for like Dyna Blade. So for one, they've like kept that like exact same system for like displaying damage, which is like crazy to me. You'd think they would like come up with one that's a little clearer with like what it's doing, but it's like the exact same. But yeah, I always thought it was kind of cool, and it's like insane to me to see characters like Susie like Susie or Magalore pop up in these boxes. Just like, okay, it's like little close up of their. I don't know. There's something about it that is just really interesting to me. Just kind of crazy to see that come back in this game. But yeah, I think at this point that's like basically everything I have to say about this game. It looks really good. It's like surprisingly like faithful to like the idea of the original game, but like they've added like so much, and it's like, hopefully as I've been able to convey in this video, there's a lot of like just like, as someone that was like huge into the original game, there's a lot of like very interesting and thoughtful changes and additions. 3 months is really not a long time, but it feels kind of painful to wait that long. But it's incredible that this game is happening like at all. Like this is just, how is this real? It's like it's like crazy that this game is happening in the first place, but I think it's like even crazier that it like nothing about it is like upsetting me. Like if I wanted an Air Ride sequel to happen, this is like basically exactly what I wanted. But yeah, I guess there's not really too much more to say. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully anything I said in this video was interesting and or insightful. Thank you for watching.